Today I'm going to tell you how I coded an app in an hour, um, put it up on my website. It got to the first page of Google, how you can do the same thing, and why you might or might not want to do that. Hi, everybody. My name is Maria Korolov. I am a technology journalist, and I have been for a couple of decades. And I focus on how businesses use technology, what actually works, what doesn't. And in the past couple of years, I've been focusing pretty much exclusively on AI, a little bit of cybersecurity, a little bit of quantum computing in there. And one of the things that I have been following is the rise of AI coding assistants. It's one of the top use cases in most enterprises that I talk to because the people who use coding assistants are coders, so they already are familiar with technology and appreciate its benefits and also know enough to tell if it's going wrong and how to fix it. So, great use case. A lot of companies are reporting productivity improvements, but a lot of them are also saying this isn't really something for the average person to do very easily. There's still a lot of gaps in it, a lot of problems with integration and security and functionality and all this other stuff. So it takes like a real developer to actually use it well. So I decided to try it out earlier this year. I tried three different platforms. I tried Lovable, I tried Replit, I tried Google's Firebase Studio and its AI Studio, which has changed its name a couple of times. And I built an app and I wrote an article about it for Computer World. It worked. The Lovable one was really pretty. And then I tried using Lovable for other things since then, like Notion doesn't have a PDF export, so I had Lovable write me one. And it didn't, but it used up all my free credits. I had to upgrade. And then it kept not working for various reasons. The backend database would get disconnected or the APIs would change. It was a major pain in the butt. This is why I'm no longer a developer. So I used to be a developer like a million years ago. My first job when I was 14 was as a computer programmer. So I love databases. They're my first love. And I don't love them enough to do them full time, though. So anyway, I was working on my database yesterday because I have a relational database that I use for all my project management and for my day job and for my fiction writing. And I wanted to, make my interface a little prettier. And I wanted to come up with color palette. I had some purples and some reds and some blues and some yellows, and I wanted them all to have the similar level of saturation and lightness and be evenly spaced on a color wheel, all the things, right? So as I usually do, I went online, I typed in color palette generator, the Canva one came up, and I went to it, and it didn't have the features that I wanted. It didn't give me enough colors in the color palette. And it didn't have the image upload feature right there. You had to go to a separate app to get it. And there were all these like other piddly little things that I didn't like about it. And normally I would just say, oh, well, what can you do? And then yesterday morning I was like, wait a second. This is a perfect job for vibe coding. And I didn't use any of the vibe coding platforms I used before. I didn't use Claude Code, which is the most popular one out there today and the most functional one and the one everybody uses. I just used the regular old Claude and I said, I want an app that lets me type in a hex code and it generates a color palette. And instead of just giving me four options, that are evenly spaced on the square, it should give me five or six because I wanted like five or six colors for my user interface. A couple of minutes later, I had a working app in the artifact half of the window. It's like, wow, it worked. It looked beautiful. There were no problems, no bugs. I tried out the functionality and everything was working the way it was supposed to. And I'm like, okay. All right, let's make that up to 10 colors. So 10 evenly spaced colors around a color wheel. And Claude said, sure. And a couple of minutes later, it did it. And now had 10 colors. And I said, oh, make it go all the way up to 11. And Claude said, ha ha, I see where you're going with this. And it made it go up to 11. And then I was like, okay, but also add in all the standard ones, uh, the the ones that go by the three that are close together and all the other ones. So it wrote me an app that had all the other ones in it. And I said, okay, now add in a functionality to upload an image. And it added the functionality. And then I said, I don't like the dark color scheme, make it light. Add in my blog's branding, because I have a blog, Hypergrid Business, which is about virtual reality and stuff. It's been around since 2009. And so it added my little blog branding at the top and the bottom. I was like, you know what? This is a working app. I put it through its paces. I tested everything. I mean, I might have missed an edge case here and there. If so, let me know in the comments. But yeah, I was really, really impressed. So I'm going to see if I can share my screen here and show it to you. So let's see, share screen, share. All right, so hopefully you might be seeing this screen here. So Hypergrid Business, that's the website. It's a live link. Maria's world's best color palette generator, because, why not? Create perfectly balanced color palettes. Start with a color, hex code, or image. Goes up to 11. All right, so what you do is you pick a color, or you paste in the hex of it, and you can do them evenly spaced. So you can do 2 evenly spaced on opposite sides. You can do 3, 4, 5, 6, all the way up to 11. So, like, why would you need 11? Maybe you're doing infographics or a chart, and you need 11 distinct colors that are all kind of related to each other, but, are just about like in the right spots. And you can start out with a different color, like make it a little lighter, a little darker, and, just recalculate them all. All right, so that's too dark. There we go. See, okay. And then there's special harmonies. So this is where, so you start with one color and it will find the analogous colors. You can do a monochromatic one. It can do split complementary one, tetratic one, compound one. You can do shades and tints. Now, Claude came up with most of these names because I didn't even know that, like, this was a thing, right? And then you can also upload an image. And so here's an image. I just reviewed a bunch of books. And it will create a color palette based on these images. And I can change the number of colors that I pull out of this image. Look at that. And again, it goes up to 11. So if I'm decorating a living room, I might start with my favorite rug or my favorite painting, and it will create a color palette based on that. And it gives you the hex code, which you can copy just by clicking on a color. And it gives you the HSL as well, in case that's something you need. I mean, so look at this. It took me an hour to write this and debug it. And then I wanted to know, how do I post it on my website? And Claude gave me instructions for my hosting provider. It said, go on this page and click on this, and then upload this file, and it gave me index.html. He put everything in one file for me to make it easier. I uploaded it, and I have a working app. But then, like, how do I embed it in a post? And it told me how to do that. You put in an iframe, and I did, and here it is on an iframe right on my website, right? Awesome. Like, literally, I cut and pasted a line in there. And now, this is so cool. When you go to Google, and I'm doing this in an incognito window, so it's not just, because it's me, and I search for world's best palette generator, mine comes up in second place. That is so cool. Yeah. So I was like super stoked by this. Yeah, so that was a lot of fun. So what does this mean for you? So if you're sitting there and you're like searching for something on the web and you can't find it, and you're like, gee, I wish I had this thing that I could do, you can just vibe code it. So when Claude wrote this, it did it in, and I don't even know what language. I don't know, JavaScript, Python, I don't know. Um, the apps it wrote for me before, probably Python. I don't know what libraries it uses. I don't know how it came up with its algorithms. And I could have done this. I could have learned Python. My daughter's been after me to learn Python for years. She's like, Mom, it's such an easy language. I don't like the punctuation in it. I don't want to learn it. Okay. Um, and the okay, so I have been a developer before. So I have the mindset. And it's like I know that I need to be very specific about how I describe my problem. I know that if there's a problem, I know how to describe the problem. This happens when you do this, but not when you do this, which helps, Claude understand what I'm getting at, understand what I'm getting at, and have a better clue as to how to fix it. I know what is possible and what isn't. So if I get stuck on something, I know that there's probably a way to do it. And if I hunt around a little bit more, I'll find it. Kind of like Mark Rober's think like an engineer kind of approach. I I can ideate and I can iterate and then I can test the thing and make sure that it's working. But you don't need to be a computer programmer to do that. You can learn it like as you go just by experimenting with the technology. When I started out, the computers were really slow. And for things like sorts and searches that you wanted to make them as fast as possible, you had to drop down into assembler or even machine language to get them done. And I knew machine language. I had a whole bunch of the 8085 and the 6502 uh, instruction set memorized, which is like an insane thing to do, right? And there were programmers who were going around saying, well, if you're a real programmer, you know how to code assembler. If you're a real programmer, you know how to code in machine language because that's the real fundamental base level of code. And by knowing how the bits flip and how the bytes are rotated, this is like core foundational technology. And sometimes you need to drop down into assembler or machine language in order to fix something. I don't know anybody these days who does that. Like, nobody does that. Why would anybody do that, right? But that was a thing that people used to say. And I think it's a thing that people say now about vibe coding. Oh, but you have to have an understanding of the coding in order to do anything. I don't think so. I don't think that's true. I think that increasingly, just being able to articulate the problem is going to be enough. And anybody can learn how to do that, either through actual study, and there's tutorials and everything about it, or just trial and error, or by having AI itself teach you how to do it, which is which is a really cool thing. I think AI is the first technology out there that is like fully capable of teaching you how to use itself, which is kind of cool. So what is this good for? So in the near future, if you have an idea for an app or a functionality you want to offer to your website visitors, you can just code it and put it up there for people to use. I would not say this is a get rich quick scheme because monetizing an app is very different from just throwing something up, right? You have to promote it, you have to put ads on it, or have some kind of premium features and do all the businessy stuff around it. which is work and hard work. And there's also no barriers to entry. If I coded this in an hour, somebody else can point the AI to my app and said, clone this for me and get a clone in 5 minutes, maybe 10. It's going to get quicker and easier, like literally every week it gets better. So there are no barriers to entry here. There's no defensible position. There's no moat. And somebody like Canva or one of the other big online image editing, whatever platforms can add my functionality to theirs. I mean, I was annoyed because I couldn't get 11 colors, and so I built my app. There's nothing keeping Canva from adding that to their app if people really care about it. I don't think people do. I think it's just like my own personal quirk. Uh, but yeah, Canva could just add it, and Canva has name recognition. So when people are looking for a palette generator that goes up to 11, they'll just go to Canvas, right? Or, and I think this is something that's going to happen as well. You know how Google already gives you the AI answers when you search for information? I think that very soon, if you search for functionality, Google will create an app for you on the fly. It took Claude like a couple of minutes to generate the first iteration of this app for me, and it worked. It did everything I asked it to. I tweaked it because I wanted to change the colors and add more stuff and all this other stuff. But the basic app that I asked for, it gave it to me in a couple of minutes and it worked. So I'm going to bet that Google is going to just add that functionality to their search engine. And if somebody's looking for a tool or an app, it's just going to be there. And and it's not just Google. Like if you're using ChatGPT and you want this app and you type this in, I'm looking for a tool that does this. ChatGPT might come back and say, well, there's some online, but none of them do exactly what you want. Here, I coded one for you. Ta-da! So if you're looking for a get rich quick scheme, this isn't it. This is not defensible. You still have to market it, promote it, monetize it. And there's no barriers to entry. You will, if you happen to fall into something that people actually want, there's nothing to keep the AI companies themselves from duplicating it, and nothing to keep the established players in the space from adding that same functionality in a few minutes. So, yeah, but, and this is a big but, that doesn't mean that there's no use for it. Just because somebody else might do it doesn't mean that they will do it. And there's definitely some niche tools that maybe your customers love. But there's not enough of these customers out there for people to create apps for them. You can create a nice looking dedicated app as a magnet to your website or as a magnet to your blog or as a magnet to your corporate client's website to bring in people with this useful tool that serves a very tiny niche audience, but that provides a benefit for them. And then that way they don't have to vibe code it and go back and forth with ChatGPT on, no, I wanted this, not that, right? You can just do it for them. And that is very convenient and that's very useful. And I think that's something that we can do. So if you're a content creator and you have an idea for a tool that isn't out there yet or isn't out there in the form that you want, try this out. This is something that is actually doable. If you're worried about giving your idea to ChatGPT or Claude, you can use a open source AI that you run locally. Mistral 3 is a great one, and it has a coding version. So that's the one I recommend right now as far as open source models go. It's right up there with the frontier models. It's not Chinese and it's not Facebook's. So it's a good deal. And they're in France, so they have to comply with the European privacy regulations, which are pretty good. So it's a good place to start. And if you, of course, if you run it locally, then um, it's all contained on your computer. It's not going to leave and do anything else. Your data isn't going to go anywhere else. So it's a nice option. So yeah, try out the app. Tell me what you think. Are there any apps you've wanted to build but never got around to, or didn't know how to, or couldn't afford to hire developers to do? This is kind of your time. And um, and I do think it's a short window of opportunity. AI is moving so quickly that I think the whole concept of what an app is going to change very, very dramatically, and it might well get eaten up by the AI chatbots. Similar to the way that smartphones ate up a whole bunch of things we used to buy separately, like tape recorders and cameras and GPS devices and scanners, right? So we use our flashlights, right? So the phone took over a whole bunch of different technologies, and I think AI is poised to take over a whole bunch of internet technologies. So that's going to be like really interesting to keep an eye out for. A little scary if that's the business you're in, but also interesting if you're a journalist covering it. Yeah, not a get rich quick scheme, but something that could potentially be useful in some limited applications. But meanwhile, I'm just so stoked to be on the front page of Google. Um, if you type in world's best palette generator. So yeah. Okay, guys, I will see you later. Bye bye.